Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have you back. I hope everyone is safe and sound out there on the old interweb. And as always, subscribe, like, hit up the Patreon page. Let's get a community of like-minded music lovers together. Let's get a conversation started about some music, and let's find some common ground in this crazy world. So on the channel today, I want to talk about a gentleman named Buffalo Nichols. Now, Nichols is spelled like the common last name, not like the jang-a-lang in your pocket. And the album is a self-titled album just called Buffalo Nichols. And it was released October 15th of 2021. It rolls for 8 songs and is 27 minutes. Now, I had never heard this artist before, which is kind of what I tend to do on this channel. I like to talk about people that I discover or pop up on my streaming service. And when this guy popped up, I had to dig into it just a little bit. Now, going into this gentleman's bio, or this artist's bio, it seems that he was born in Houston and raised in Milwaukee. Now, his bio on his website, and I'm going to post a link to his website below, is a very good read about the gentleman's history and the point of view that he's coming from. So I don't want to sit here and go through a lot of this, just because that I implore you to dig into this artist's backstory and understand where he's coming from and how he makes his art. A lot of times we lose that. We lose the highways and byways that get us to where we're going, and we lose what makes an artist an artist. It doesn't matter if it's an independent artist, if it's a new artist, or if it's a megastar. They all have a way or a road that they got there. And I think that we lose sight of them as people when they become artists. So I said all that to say, please go to the guy's website, go to Buffalo Nichols' website, check it out. There's tour dates. I did notice he's coming on close to my town in December. I may try to catch that show. That would be cool. He's got some merch that looks really cool, t-shirts and whatnot. And then, of course, this bio that I'm talking about. So please get on there and check that out. Now, like I said, it seems that he's from the Milwaukee area. And the sound on this is very minimalistic. And if I could speak on it for just a minute, his influences, I believe, are he has a Ketmo vibe, but the one thing that I really wanted to say is I catch a lot of Robert Johnson vibe on this. Now, that's not to say that this is old blues. They have this categorized as contemporary blues. I'm not really big on genres. It's just music. But one thing I want to point out is through the evolution of the blues, I feel like we've lost the blues, if that makes sense. Now let me explain really quick. From Robert Johnson forward, we had the acoustic roots blues, and then about the Muddy Water era of blues, when they electrified the Mud and Howlin' Wolf and those guys, it began to grow into something else. Now, when Eric Clapton and those guys discovered the Robert Johnson blues, they electrified it overseas. But the Muddy Waters and those guys electrified it here in the United States, and it grew from something very organic. Now, currently today, we base most of our blues sound on that electrified era of blues, and we base it on what we think is blues as Stevie Ray Vaughan or anything like that. Now, I'm not knocking Stevie Ray Vaughan, but when you get down to the real essence of what blues music is, he is a lot of degrees away from Robert Johnson. And Robert Johnson could be the 6 degrees of separation, if you will, as the beginning of the blues. in a popular culture. Him and Sunhouse and Leadbelly and those guys, that era, they were the forefathers. Now, not to say that Buffalo Nichols does not get electrified on some of his stuff on the album. I didn't want to imply that, but I think what he is conveying is through his bio, he's lived a lot of miles. He's been through some things that other blues artists went through, and I think that he's trying to bring that roots of the blues to the future, but not convolute it into electric blues that we know as like I said, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Joe Bonamassa or anything like that. And again, those two guys that I mentioned are phenomenal guitar players and phenomenal blues players, but the separation between traditional heartfelt blues and electrified blues, there's a big gap there if you get into that. So I've rambled on that enough. So influences on this guy, I get a Ketmo vibe, and I get the deep old school blues like Robert Johnson, Leadbelly, Sunhouse, those guys. Now, moving on, before I get back on my soapbox, let's talk gear. Now, I dug into some of his gear, some YouTube videos and whatnot, and it looks like on the album cover there is a Recording King. Now, a Recording King guitar, originally in the 30s, Recording Kings were offered by Montgomery Ward, and they were a house brand guitar for them, very well made, and the company that makes them now continues that tradition, and they're affordable guitars, ladies and gents. If you're looking for a vintage sounding small body guitar, and they even make some jumbo stuff, they make a few resonators. I surprisingly was just looking on their website and saw a resonator that I'm pretty interested in, so I'm going to do some research on that, and maybe I'll end up with one here at the crib. But for now, just in this conversation, it looks like he uses a Recording King, and then he plays a resonator in a couple videos I watched, and I had to do some research, and surprisingly it's a mule resonator. And if you saw my video about Ariel Posen a little bit ago, I talked about those, so that's really cool. That's the second artist I've seen playing those, and they look like really well built guitars. I never have had the opportunity to play one, and it would be really cool for me to get my hands on one, but they look like phenomenally built guitars, and they sound incredible, so that's very cool. So that's the gear for this guy. So let's get into my top three, as I always do. As I said, this is a self-titled album. It runs 8 songs, 27 minutes, released October 15th, 2021. Now, like I always do, if I was going to give you this and say, here, start here, my number 3 song would be Sorry It Was You, which is the number 8 song on the album, and runs 3 minutes. Now, as you get into this song, it starts with the traditional vocal guitar accompaniment, and then gets into some electrified jam about halfway through that, it adds weight to the song, and it really is a progression in the album's storytelling. So I thought that was really cool. So my number 3 jam would be Sorry It Was You, number 8 on the album, and it runs 3 minutes. Now, my number 2 jam would be Another Man. Now, Another Man is the 6th track on the album, and it runs 3 minutes and 14 seconds. What struck me about this song, why it's my number 2 jam, is this really shows this artist's vocal power, and it really shows his depth in his voice, that he's using it as an instrument, and it really sucked me in. Now, that's not saying the other songs don't do that, but as I got deep into the album and I got to this cut, it just hit like a hammer, his voice did, and I was really, really taken by it. So, Another Man, the number 6 song, 3 minutes, 14 seconds, is my number 2 jam off the album. Now, my number 1 jam, if I was going to hand you this and say this, to me, is the cut off the album that beats everything, is Sick Bed Blues. Now, it is the number 3 song on the album, and it runs 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, starting this out, it's very kept mode feel, and I hate to say, like, I don't compare artist to artist, but that's just an influence, because if you haven't heard this artist, that gives you a starting point. Now I want you to clear your mind and listen to him. But the thing that struck me was the storytelling in this album, about a man being sick in bed, and how sometimes his friends, sometimes they come around, sometimes they don't. He thought he had people that would be by his side, and he doesn't. His vocal on this is a very low mellow thing, and it escalates. And then the background noises, there's like a rattle, kind of like a rattlesnake kind of thing in this, and that really struck me and hooked me as that blues, mysterious, there's a devil at the crossroads kind of thing that's cool. And I really enjoyed this track. Listening to it around the house, and then early in the morning on the way to work in the car, just the overall production of this track sucked me in. So my number 1 jam off of this album is Sick Bed Blues. It is a number 3 track, and it runs 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So there you go. Those are my top 3. Now, please dig into this artist. I think that blues is important. Blues is important to the fabric of America and the struggle of some of America's people, okay? And I feel like that we have lost some of that art from the Robert Johnsons and the guys I mentioned earlier in the video, because we have gotten so electrified, and some of the blues has been whitewashed to us that we forget the fabric of what makes it great, okay? The stories, the instrumentalism, the playing, the visualizations of what we're seeing, and it's refreshing to hear a contemporary blues album that can stir you back to that. And in my 40 years on this earth, I've been through some times. I've had different things happen. I've lost a lot of family members lately in the past years that meant a lot to me, and the blues is a fabric in my life. So again, I implore you, don't lose sight of the fabric of the music that you love. Find out where it came from. Everything has a step, everything has an evolution, and everything has an influence. This is great. This is bringing that forward. So again, Buffalo Nichols, what do I give it on my jam scale? 5 out of 5. I give this a 4. This is really well produced. This guy's vocals is good. There are some songs that are minimalistic in terms of instrumentation, and that draws you in. I really look forward to getting an opportunity to hopefully catch this cat live and feel some of that live. So yeah, check it out. Buffalo Nichols, the self-titled album. You won't be disappointed. And there you go. Remember to stay safe, everybody. Love the jam you love. Keep rocking. And remember that music is love, and love is music. Until next time,